This is a really fun project. It's an A to Z bookends from big chunky bits of wood, big letters. And what it is an extension of a couple of other videos that I've done that are close-ups of serifs and junctions. And I'd certainly suggest you go and have a look at those first of all. I'll put a link below. Sharpen up your tools, find some nice easily carvable wood. In the download I've done the actual font and the letters drawn out for you at the size, so you can go ahead and make these and A to Z bookends. Here are my letters drawn out. I've got a footer line here on which they rest, and that's a little bit wider from the footer line to the bottom of the letter than it is from the top of the letter to the top of the wood. It gives it a little bit more weight down the bottom. I've drawn these letters out using standard Trajan Roman, and I'll put it in the download so you can use them if you like. Notice that the A is a little bit higher than the Z here, and that's because there's more space and this tends to shrink. So to get the optical illusion of this being the same size, this A is slightly taller than this strong line here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut out the straight bits of all these letters here, this bit, leaving the junctions and the serifs till later. So to do that, I'm going to put them on the bench, clamp them down, and use a mallet and a big chisel. I finish the straight elements that are across the grain, or in this case slightly diagonal. I always do those first, and then I'm going to turn to the horizontals, which are a little bit different because the grain is going in this direction, needs to be treated a little bit differently. But let me just say that what's really important here is this edge and this edge where the shadow goes down into the trough and the root down the bottom, and you want to make sure these three lines are as accurate as you can, as clean as you can. The face, the walls, Now that it's quite difficult because you're trying, even with a big chisel, to merge a flat face with a flat face like this. So sometimes, even with a wide chisel, you know, you have to sort of very carefully shave it as you go along. And if necessary, rather than getting yourself into trouble, you can use something like a flat gouge. This is a number 3, and you can just lightly clean up any junctions on the wall at this size, because you won't see that. You won't see that on the wall. What you will see are these lines here, and that's what you really need to focus on. So let's turn to these horizontals going along the grain. I'm going to look at the horizontal element of this A here, the bar. The grain is going in this direction like a pencil, but it's free at each end like so. So the same sort of principle is that I put a stop cut down the middle, like so. Now when I cut in at an angle like this, what's going to happen is it's going to splinter along here, because the fibres are rolling and splintering in a way that they don't go when you cut it across the grain. So what I do is I come inside the line to begin with, take out the waste, like so. Then I turn to my hand, and what I do is instead of just pushing down like that, I try to slide across. So I go like this, and on this side with my thumb. So I'm getting a slicing cut here. And the depth of this one, of course, being Roman, is the same as this line. So this here comes down to the bottom of that trench and about halfway down that trench. Okay, so that's how I do that, with a slicing cut across as much as I can. The difference in the horizontal grain here in the bottom limb and the top limb is that the ends of this grain run into the serif or the junction at either end. So there's a tendency for the grain to split into those parts and damage them. So what I'm going to do is, when I put my stop cut in the middle down here, I'm going to have to put an end stop cut here to stop that grain pushing out. So first of all, my stop cut into here. Then I take another chisel, and what I can do is I can put the stop cuts for the serif in here like this, which will be like this. Those are the two serif stop cuts. And on this side here, so I'm putting these in earlier than I would normally. And then for this part, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come across like this. I'm just going to break that grain up, the fibres, so they don't push forward. So now, just as before, I'm going to take a bit out here. And I think you can see, oh well, you will in a moment. Get this out here. So I'm within the line, and you can see how this stop cut has stopped it going in here. So once I've done that, I can do my slicing cut, perhaps with a narrower chisel, and bring that up to the line more accurately. I'll clean that up in a minute. So we go to the top one here. You can see how that's, I don't know if you can see that's tearing beyond the cut, but it's stopped there, which is great. This grain is loose, but sometimes it doesn't come out at the end because it's long grain. So I'm not going to worry about that. You see, that's all, it's actually free and cut. So I've got my verticals, my cross grains, I've got my horizontals done. And now the next thing to do is to turn to the junctions and the serifs.